But the new me is really still the real me. I swear you gotta feel me before they try and kill me. They gotta make some choices, they running out of options. Cause I've been going off and they don't know when to stop. And when you get the pop and I see that you've been learning. And when I took the stop, you still keep burning. And when you pop off when your ex, see this. Let's go.
Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my Chanel. Today I'm really excited to be reviewing for you guys all the new releases from SHOPMISSA. If you haven't seen my previous SHOPMISSA videos, SHOPMISSA is basically this like online dollar store where everything is literally $1 per piece.
No shit.
And it seems too good to be true, but a lot of the products are staples in my everyday routine, and I think they're just an awesome company. So I love reviewing for you guys all the new releases whenever they come out with stuff, just because sometimes it's like, this is $1. Is it gonna be good? While I have been using their products in my videos very regularly, I haven't really done a full SHOPMISSA video in quite a while because they haven't really released anything. I think for a couple months I did this little dry period where I was like, oh, they're just chilling.
That is not correct.
They came out with a ton of stuff for holidays, so over the past like month or so, they've released a crap ton of new things. And I have pretty much all of the new releases here to review for you guys. I've been testing these out for about 2 weeks now, so I have full thoughts on pretty much every product. The only thing that's not in this video is the blushers. They came out with a full line of like powder blushes, cream blushes, and then cream highlighters. I don't have those ones, they are sending me them, so if they do arrive by the end of November, they will be in the new makeup releases favorites and fails episode for November. But if not, I will review them sometime in December. I'll just try and get my review as soon as possible. But in this video, we have pretty much every other new release that they have. I'm super excited to get into this with you guys because we have quite a few awesome things and quite a few
No.
Alright, so I'm going to start off with, of course, the most exciting thing in the entire collection, which are their new eyeshadow palettes. So I reviewed the A2O Labs eyeshadow kits last time in the last video I did, which were basically like 9-pan palettes. I've referenced those quite a few times on my channel, and I really do enjoy those. These are limited edition. I believe they're $10 each or something like that. The previous A2O Labs eyeshadow kits were kind of like magnetic palettes with singles that you just pop in. These ones have like pre-pressed in pans, so you can't really remove these. There are 4 palettes in the collection, and these are just for holiday. So you have Immersed, which is kind of the rainbow palette in the collection. And you'd think I'd be wearing this one in the video today, but no, I'm actually wearing the James Charles and Morphe palette. Review coming soon. I'm super excited about that one. There's the Vanity Palette, which is a bit more on the cool tone side. You get a lot of neutrals in here, as well as some like deeper
Plum tones and some purples.
The XOXO palette, which I don't really know how I would describe this one. I would say kind of like earthy tones, definitely a bit more warm toned and mostly neutral with a few pops of like earth tone colors in here. And then finally the Bare palette, which is the truly neutral palette in the collection. You get warm tones, neutrals, and cool tones in here as well. They're all basic neutral shades. Alright, so I'm just going to go through palette by palette and flash a look I've done on screen with each one. So first I'll go with the colorful Immersed palette because this was the most exciting one to me. Obviously. The packaging on here is just cardboard, and there's a plastic insert on here, so it's not really as high quality and sturdy as the eyeshadow kits. These are a bit like cheaper in packaging. That actually does affect how they arrive and how they're shipped, because even though these were wrapped in bubble wrap, pretty much every single palette I received had at least one shade that was slightly cracked. So the cracked shades that I received were all shimmer shades. It seems that those are the softer formulas, so they are more likely to crack. And I managed to repress them, but I do have a tip for you guys. If you notice that one of the shadows in your palette is cracked, which you'll be able to see through the plastic insert, do not tip your palette over. Keep the plastic insert that it comes with in there, and then have it on a level ground. Take out the plastic insert and then press it back in using either a tissue or just your hands. Just mush the shadow back in there. Obviously, shadows coming cracked is not a good thing, and these are only $10, but that is still something to take into account, is that the fact that the packaging isn't the like most sturdy would lead to these being a bit more fragile. Here are the colors, and then in all the palettes, when you open them, they do have a bit of a scent to them. Like these eyeshadows smell like, I don't know, if you've ever smelled like the Morphe eyeshadows before, not the ones in the Jaclyn Hill palette, but the ones in like the 35O, 35B, 35 whatever, those original palettes, they do have a bit of a scent to them. They just kind of smell like cheaper eyeshadows. That doesn't necessarily say that they're bad quality, that just means that they might have like some preservatives in them that might be causing that smell. So that's another thing to take into account. It made me a tiny bit nervous when I smelled them at first, but I'm willing to give any eyeshadow formula a fair shot and see if it actually works in quality, instead of just like judging it right off the bat by how it looks. This palette kind of looks like, to me, like the Natasha Denona Tropics palette. You get the like kind of lavender shade in here, a lot of blues, and then some kind of peachier tone neutrals as well. I think it's a really cool color scheme, and I'm very happy that they did a more colorful palette, because a lot of the time they just don't really commit to the full thing, and they do like a kind of colorful palette, but not really. But here they really went for it. Okay. Unfortunately, this is the palette of the 4 that I did have the most problems with, just because they are cheaper eyeshadows. The colorful shadows in here, they're just not the best formula that they could be, and that's probably the fact that they're $10 palettes, but still, I was really impressed with the last eyeshadow palette that they had, and I was just a little bit let down by the colors in here. I did come up with a look that was pretty blue toned. I used a lot of the blues in this row and then some of the purples down here. These are all like inner corner highlight shades, so they kind of have duochrome shifts. These are beautiful, and I would reach into the palette just for these shades alone. The shimmers are awesome as well. I feel like the shimmers are just your standard shimmer formula. They're really well formulated. They're kind of soft and buttery, but they're nice and reflective, and they have a good amount of color payoff. I mainly just had issues with the matte shades in here. I think you'll see in the swatches, they're just not the most
literally so pigmented.
They don't have a ton of pigment to them, so you can definitely build them up a bit, and they blend very easily. That's a great plus for them. You have to layer them so much in order to get like a full opaque color payoff, and I'm just used to using more pigmented shadows, so they were a bit harder to work with in terms of getting that like nice bright color payoff. So if you do like a bit of a softer like wash of color rather than like bam pigment, this might be for you, but for me it was just a bit of a letdown. And they weren't patchy or anything, but you could tell that they were just like diluted down. They weren't like the full pigment shadows. I would give this like a 6 out of 10, which doesn't sound great, but it was okay. The mattes were a bit of a struggle, not because they didn't blend or anything or because they were patchy, just because you have to build them up a lot. Next up, the Vanity Palette. I was so excited to see a purple themed color palette in this one because I'm just like such a hoe for purple palettes. And this is kind of a fun take on the purple palette thing because I would say the most purple shades you get in here are of course shimmers. You don't really get any true purple mattes. Most of them are kind of purplish, brownish mattes, if that makes sense. They're a little bit plummy toned, but they're definitely more on the brown side. This one was a lot easier to work with than the Immersed palette, which this was the second palette that I did a look with, so I was really excited and pleased with how this performed just because I was kind of scarred by the last one. Because these are neutral shades, I don't necessarily want the most like, bam, crazy color payoff. Sometimes I just want to be able to layer them a bit more and get a softer look. So especially because there were a lot of mattes in here, and the mattes are a little bit lighter in pigment but just very easy to blend out. It was super easy to kind of establish that nice soft crease shades, and then I went in with some of the purple shimmers in here and they were beautiful. I wore this for I think Black Friday shopping, and it lasted very well. It didn't crease. I would give this one an 8 out of 10. I think this is probably my favorite of the bunch and definitely the one I would recommend picking up the most. Next up, I have the Bare palette. This is the truly like soft glam neutral palette in the collection, and I actually really like this one as well. As I was saying with the Vanity palette, if I'm doing more neutral looks, I like having a bit of a softer shadow that you can build up as opposed to having something that's super crazy pigmented that you have to work to blend out. So that's kind of what I like for my colorful shadows, but not necessarily my neutrals. So I felt like the formula of these shadows really did work in this color scheme's favor. This has such a nice variety of like neutral shades, so if you only wear neutral eyeshadows, I think you'd really like this one a lot because you pretty much have cool tones, warm tones, everything in between that you would need. I would say that the lighter and more medium tone mattes in here are very true to color, so what you see in the pan is what you get on the eyes, but the darker shades in here is what I had a problem with. Because the matte shades in here are a bit lighter in pigmentation, I had a bit of a harder time with the darker shades because if I wanted to add a little bit of definition in the outer corner or something, or if I wanted to do a liner, I had to build these ones up a lot to get like even a tiny amount of color payoff. So in the look that I'm going to show you guys, I actually used this shade and then the kind of like black matte in here, and you can't really tell that I'm wearing black because the shadows in here are so like light but also very blendable, so it just kind of blended away. The shimmers in here are awesome as well. I feel like the shimmers are very consistent between the palettes, but yeah, this one's okay. I would give this a 7 out of 10 just because the mattes in here, the darker ones, aren't very deep or rich, but still a good palette, and if you like neutrals, I think you'd really like this one. All right, and then finally XOXO, Gossip Girl. This one was honestly the most forgettable palette for me, which is regrettable, but it was forgettable. Hey. As I said, you're kind of getting a lot of earth-toned mattes in here. This my shit. All the girls stomp your feet like this. Wow. As I said, the matte shades you're getting in here are a bit more like earthy toned. You get like a few peachy toned shades in here, definitely pretty warm. So I enjoyed them. They were decent. They weren't hard to work with by any means. They just weren't super pigmented. So the olive green in here was total ass. I think you need a more pigmented shade if you're doing an olive green, and this kind of looked muddy, I guess. But the rest of the shades in here, like the peachy tones, those I'm okay with having a little bit less pigmentation because most of them are just gonna go in the crease, and if you're using peachy shades, chances are you're not going for the most like super bright look, but that just might be me. So the mattes were okay, but I didn't have like the best time ever with them. I was just like, eh. And then the shimmers in here are really nice. I particularly enjoyed these like kind of darker shimmer shades up here, but it didn't really make sense to me to not have like darker matte shades as well, because if I'm going to be using a darker shade like one of these shimmers, I want to have like matte in the palette that's like either darker or the same amount of depth as the shimmer shade, because I'm not going to use a shimmer shade that's darker, I guess. I don't know. So I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. It wasn't bad and it wasn't hard to work with. It just didn't really inspire me. Okay, now moving on to the other products. Prepare to be bombarded with a lot of highlighters in this video because they did release 4 new types of highlighters, and they already had their baked highlighters, and I'm reviewing all the highlighters for you guys today. The first ones I was like super excited about were the AOA Studio Velour Highlighters. I have a few more shades upstairs, but I picked the 2 that I like the most. So I have these shades Sometimes, which is like beautiful for my skin tone, and Lucky. These are just like the 2 lightest shades, I think. These are basically like a little bit of a cream highlighter. So if you've ever touched the Colourpop Super Shock highlighters or the Physicians Formula Butter highlighters, just to name a few, kind of like a pressed cream highlighter, so they're not fully cream, but they're definitely not a powder either. Forewarning, these products do have a bit of like an oily like texture to them, which is really nice on the face because it does kind of like melt the highlighter in. But when I got my package, a bunch of the products inside were kind of coated in oil, and I was like, what the fuck? And I found the culprit, which was the shade Sometimes. It was kind of like leaking out oil, so that's something interesting that I did want to mention. It might not happen to you, but it did to me. But these are really pretty. I'm wearing them on one of my cheeks. So this is the cheek with the Velour highlighters. I think it's really gorgeous. They're kind of, again, a cream texture, so they don't look like they're sitting on top of the skin like a powder would. They just kind of like melt into the skin. The only thing I would say is that they can be a little bit hard to work with if you're using a full coverage foundation, just because like cream highlighters like these ones tend to move around whatever you have underneath them. So if you are using a more full coverage foundation, you might have to finesse them a little bit more, maybe use a finger or something like that, but they are really beautiful. I love the effect that they give, and they're so crazy blinding. I will show you guys swatches so you guys can see what they look like, but these are beautiful. For $1, these are insane. They also released a bunch of similar velour eyeshadows. So these are single eyeshadows, and they're, again, that kind of like cream shadow texture. These are a bit wetter, I guess, than the Super Shock shadows from Colourpop. Those I feel like are definitely like kind of a creamed powder texture, whereas these stay cream. They have mattes and shimmers. I have a few of each. Bonita is kind of a matte. It's kind of a very unique mustard yellow, but also orangish brown shade. Then I have Deeper, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a deeper kind of matte chocolate brown, so this is really nice for defining the outer V. And the shimmers I have from them are these shades Vogue, which is kind of a cranberry reddish shimmer, Express, which is kind of a peachy-ish rose gold, a bit of a duochrome flip. It's really pretty, and Holiday, which is kind of a cool taupe shimmer shade. So I'll show you guys swatches so you can see what they look like, but they swatch beautifully. Cream shadows tend to swatch just amazingly because they're very creamy, very soft, and very pigmented. The only problem is that they crease. Cream shadows tend to do that. I haven't really found any primer to use with these ones that prevents them from creasing. So the mattes were fine. The mattes didn't crease at all, but the shimmers definitely did crease a bit more because they are, again, a bit more of a buttery texture. So these were fine for, I'd say, like 4 or 5 hours before they creased. So I wouldn't really mind throwing one of these into my purse and just taking it with me if I needed to touch it up, because that would fix the problem. But the mattes were fine. These are nice and easy to blend. I'm gonna give them a 7 out of 10 just because they do crease a bit throughout the day, but I haven't really found any cream shadows of this texture that don't crease. Also, something to take into account is that they're very, very soft. So when I was swatching these, it was like, bam, crazy, and they like left visible marks in shadows because they are so soft. So you might go through them a bit quicker because of that, but they're still really nice, and they're $1 each. And the other cream shadows I tried from them were the XL shadow sticks. So these are basically cream shadow sticks. I do have a couple other shades upstairs, but again, these are the ones I want to show you guys. These are the ones I used the most and enjoyed the most. So there are a couple matte shades in the collection and then a couple shimmers. So one of the shimmers I have is the shade Twinkle. It's just a really beautiful, like, basic champagne. I love this one as an inner corner highlight as well as all over the lid. Then I have matte taupe and matte ginger. These were a little bit stiffer.
That's what she said.
These were a bit harder to blend out and just not very soft. They were kind of stiff, and it kind of seems ironic that I'm talking about that because with the last ones I mentioned them being just like kind of too soft to a point where they crease. These ones were a bit too dry. They just didn't really blend as easily, so they were a bit harder to work with, and I felt like if you let them sit for too long, it was like, bam, you're screwed. So the drier texture with the matte shades means you have a bit less playtime. You have to kind of blend them out as quickly as you can so that they don't dry out and just become unworkable. But they're okay, I don't mind them. Am I gonna reach for them on a daily basis? Probably not, but they are nice for creating a very nice soft effect. In the A2O Lab line, they came out with 2 face palettes, which I was very excited about. So the first one is the Lotus Contour Palette, all matte shades, which I love. And I was really excited about this because it seemed that they did a fairly good job with doing a nice kind of cool toned color for the contour shade. Obviously this is not going to be for every skin tone, which sucks. I use these ones as like warmer bronzers, and I use this one as my contour, and then these 3 as under eye setting powders. I would love to see them do like 2 or 3 more colorways for this one, so you could have like different skin tone ones. This could be the fair to light one, and then they could have like light medium, medium dark, dark deep. That would just be cool. That's what I would do. But I thought this did a nice job. They are pretty blendable. They do have a bit of pigmentation to them, so you might want to go in with a bit of a light hand. They're very finely milled and just really nice and high quality. So for $5, like, damn. Also, you get a mirror in here, which is bomb. I really enjoyed this contour palette. For the price, I think it's one of the best powder contour palettes I've tried in a while. I don't really do powder contouring that often. I just prefer cream contouring, but if I was gonna reach for a powder contour, I'd say this is like in 3rd place. I really enjoy the Nabla one and the Kevin Aucoin contour powders, but this could be like my 3rd place option, which is okay. So overall, 8 out of 10. It's good. They definitely could fit to expand the shade ranges for this one. They also came out with the Majesty highlighting palette. So this is a glow kit, and it seems to have their new formula of pressed highlighters, which I'm going to talk about in a minute in this video. You're getting a mirror in here, and you're also getting a white pearl shade, a kind of basic champagne pearl shade. You're getting a pink tone highlighter, which is very like bright and kind of like blush pink shade. You're getting a true gold highlighter, a bit of a darker kind of champagne-ish, kind of like Becca Opal, and you're kind of getting a bronzier highlighter. So overall, I would say this one is a bit more inclusive of a palette than the other one. These 3 fair highlighters down here work really well on my skin tone, and then the gold shade I used on my body. Again, for the price, I don't really mind not being able to use the entire palette just because it's so inexpensive. But these are really pretty. I'll show you guys swatches of how they look, but these I would say are the same quality as the pressed highlighters, which I'm going to review in a second. Really enjoyed this one, and I think if you're wanting to try out a bunch of beautiful colors from them, this could be a great option for you. As I was saying though, they did come out with quite a few different pressed highlighters in the AOA Studio Perfect Pressed formula. So they have blushes in the same kind of powder compact as well as translucent powders, which I really do enjoy. I have a few shades down here to show you guys. So Tiara, which is kind of a pink toned duochrome flip. Empress, which is kind of like a white with a bit of a yellow tone to it. So it's really interesting. It's not gold, I wouldn't say, but it's yellow. So I'm wearing it on this cheek. I think it's pretty. I don't know if it's going to be super flattering for every skin tone because I have a really strong like yellow undertone in my complexion, but if you have a very strong pink undertone, this might look a little odd. And then finally I have Airs, which is just kind of your basic like icy white shade. These are really pretty, and I think they did a really nice job with formulating these. They can look a little bit powdery on the face if you do layer them on quite a bit. So because I like going for a very blinding highlight, I go in like hard with the highlighters. So if you do go in as hard as I do and layer them quite a bit, I would say definitely use a setting spray to kind of melt everything down afterwards to make it look not super powdery and like it's sitting on top of your face. But for such an affordable formula of highlighter, I think these are really nice and reflective. And they did a really good job with getting the kind of like duochrome flips to come through. I know a lot of affordable brands try and fail miserably to do duochromes, but they did a nice job with these ones. So overall, I really enjoyed these highlighters. I'm gonna give these probably like an 8 out of 10 as well, maybe a 9. Just really good quality, and I think I'm going to be using these very regularly. They also came out with a full line of the Lip Pop glosses. So I'm wearing one of these shades. I'm wearing, I think, Starlit on my lips today over the Colourpop 951 lip liners. I've been testing these ones out. From what I can tell, they're a bit of a sheerer gloss. Not sticky at all, which I love. They're just not the most shiny, I guess. So as you can see, I'm wearing the pink one on my lips right now. It's not super like glossy, I guess. It's kind of like a light sheen. It doesn't look like you're wearing like a ton of gloss. The clear one, Superstar, is a bit more glossy in that respect. Like I feel like you can see a bit more reflection with this one. So these are nice quality. They're not sticky at all. And I think a non-sticky gloss is hard to come by, especially from a more affordable brand. But for me, they're just not my personal favorite type of gloss. If I'm gonna wear a gloss, which I normally just go for matte lips anyways, but if I'm gonna wear a gloss, I either want like full pigmentation. So the Kylie glosses are like kind of like a liquid lipstick but in glossy texture, so they have a lot of pigmentation to them with the colors. Or I'm going to go for something that's very juicy and super wet looking. So the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb, those are like super wet looking. These ones aren't really either of those types of things, so they're not my personal favorite, but I know that people will enjoy these ones. So overall, I'm going to say like 9 out of 10. They're really good quality glosses. They're just not to my personal preference for glosses, which is perfectly fine. Alright, so finally the last highlighter I have to review for you guys are the AOA Studio Powlighters. So these are $1 a piece. There's quite a few shades of these. They're a loose powder highlighter, so that kind of seems like a more trendy thing that makeup brands have been doing lately. I know Artist Couture has been doing their diamond glow powders for a while, but yeah, these were not my favorite. Really glittery, so they're definitely extremely blinding, like so incredibly blinding, but they're glitter. They look beautiful, and if you love glittery highlights, you might like these a lot. But me, you guys know I love a blinding highlighter, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean glitter. I like having nice reflectiveness, but I don't like having little particles of glitter that you can see, so it looks like you're just wearing glitter on your face, which I don't adore. This could be really fun for a party. If I was going to somewhere with like strobe lights, these would catch the light and look so good, but I don't go to places with strobe lights. I stay at home and talk to my camera. So these are not my favorite. They also kind of emphasize a bit of texture, so I think they're really pretty. If they could make these without the glitter particles, that would be awesome. But yeah, they're really glittery, just not my favorite. They're pretty when you look at them, but that's about it. So I could use them as a body highlighter, but that's kind of all I'll be using them for. There's a time and a place, and most of the time I am not in that time or place. Alright, so that is it for now. I will be reviewing the blushes as soon as I possibly can. Now, that is all the new releases I have to share with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed a lot of things from this release, and there were also some things I found some flaws in, so I made sure to give you guys as honest and thorough a review as possible so you guys know what's good from this new release. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please let me know if you want to see this series continue. I really enjoy making these new releases from SHOPMISSA videos for you guys, so please let me know if you guys want to see more with future releases. Make sure you're subscribed down below because I will love you that much more if you subscribe. Also, make sure you're following me on Instagram to see makeup look like this one. Stay tuned for the James Charles review. That's going to be coming soon. And if you made it to the very end of this video, I love you. Thank you so much for watching this channel.